Here. Absent with cause.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. The first matter on the agenda tonight is the Gibson Court condominium, which has been continued prior to this, but my understanding is that that application's been withdrawn. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, just for the record, when I say we, I mean staff received an email on August 17th from Karen Auclair Oliveira stating that she's withdrawing her application and asked that this matter be removed from the agenda tonight.
Okay, perfect. So that we're done with that one. The next matter on the calendar is Brooks, which is continued, Plat L, Lot 1-12, 39 Major Arnold Road. I believe we left that hearing open. So is there any further comment?
Good evening, thank you. Matthew Grunberg, Grunneberg, with Blish and Kavanaugh, representing Miss Alexandra Brooks, as you certainly recall, 39 Major Arnold Road. I'll keep my comments brief here tonight. I just wanted to remind the board that at the last meeting, you heard testimony from Patrick Freeman from American Engineering, Mason Khaleesi of Khaleesi Design, and Lindsay Seddon of House of LT, who all provided testimony as to the appropriateness of this proposal for this site. Besides Patrick Freeman, who couldn't make it here tonight, the members of the design team are here to answer any other questions that you may have. I'd also like to highlight that before this meeting, we sent in a supplemental narrative that hopefully answered a lot of the questions that the board had. In particular, it was focused on the height requirements and how height is measured. And we've since received correspondence from the town that the building department is no longer requiring a height variance for this project based on the information. So we certainly appreciate that that was considered and reviewed.
And Matt, I can just jump in that. I believe Attorney Grunberg sent a memo to the board dated August 6th of this year. That was received by your building official, Jay, to my left. He reviewed it. He's actually in agreement with the applicant. They don't actually need a height application. So that is no longer going to be part of your consideration. It's no longer necessary.
All right, well, that was going to be my first inquiry of legal counsel as I read the memo, as did other members of the board, and it appeared that if the memo is, the legal assertions are correct, there would be no need for a height variance. So
Council put the work in, Jay put the work in, and they worked it out. And I think
Okay.
that's the appropriate resolution.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for considering those extra pieces of information. So that leaves the FAR variance, which was also discussed last month at the July 23rd meeting. And we just wanted to reiterate that that variance, as stated in the staff report, is for an 8.6% deviation, which typically would be eligible for administrative modification. Now, we were advised by the town that since we also have the special use permit, that we should bring forth that variance request along with the special use permit, and it should all be heard at once. However, I think that does demonstrate the minimal aspect of that request. Essentially, the applicant is proposing a design that's a mere 109 square feet larger than the existing structure. And as the design team can speak to if needed, a lot of that space, almost all of it, is due to the enlargement based on code requirements. You know, your wall thicknesses are bigger because you have more insulation in there, structural members, and perhaps most importantly, the staircase in the new construction takes up much more space than in the existing home, which only has a very small spiral staircase. So this is a very minimal request, and it's necessary to adhere to the 4-bedroom count that is currently existing on the property. So considering the tremendous benefits of pulling the new structure away from the coastal feature, reducing the lot area coverage, we think that this request is minimal and reasonable. Other than that, we are here to answer all of your questions, but that concludes our statements for the evening. Thank you.
there a motion to close this hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Question point, I was not here for the first half of the, so I abstain, don't vote.
Yeah, you would not vote, correct.
All right,
Yep.
thank you.
All right. Is there a motion? You hear me?
Sorry, no, it's very far away.
Is
Yeah,
there a motion?
Yeah, so I would move to admit findings of fact. So this is in relation to the application from Alexander and Keith Brooks at 39 Major Arnold Road, Plat L, Lot 1-12. The relief requested is Section 4.4, Coastal Resources Overlay District, with a 187.2-foot variance and a special use permit. As mentioned, Section 6.4 variance that was contemplated in the previous meeting isn't applicable. So for the findings of fact, the applicant is submitting a request to demolish the existing dwelling and other associated improvements to construct a 44-foot by 24-foot single-family dwelling and a 30-foot by 12-foot rear yard deck with stairs.
Hey,
The
John,
property- Yep.
John, hold on one second.
Sorry, but you made the motion to close, but you never took the vote after hearing comment.
Thought
Yeah, we did.
We did all vote.
We did.
We all voted affirmatively.
No, I got John, Dave, I didn't get it for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry, all right.
Everyone, yeah.
Just clarify, everyone
Sure.
who voted to close the hearing, aye.
Aye.
Aye. You got it, all right. Go ahead, John.
Okay, great, thanks. So the project requires a variance and special use permit from the Coastal Resources Overlay District, which is Section 4.4, and the property is also located in the Special Flood Hazard Area, which is Section 4.7. Lot 112 is approximately 6,935 square feet in size, is located in an R10 zoning district, and is currently occupied. The existing 36 by 25-foot single-family dwelling and an 8-foot by 24-foot left side yard covered porch with an open sun deck above, 14 by 6-foot front yard second-story deck, 36 by 16-foot rear yard multi-tiered deck, and a 4-foot by 7-foot right side yard shed and paved driveway. The existing building and lot coverage is approximately 1,924 square feet, or about 27.7%. The proposed improvements include demolition of the existing single-family dwelling, the existing rear yard multi-tier deck, the front yard second-story deck, the right side yard shed, and the paved driveway. Constructing a 44 by 24-foot single-family dwelling with a 2-car garage, a 30 by 12-foot detached rear yard second-story deck with stairs, and a rear yard third-floor balcony and an asphalt driveway. The proposed building and lot coverage will totally approximate 1,421 square feet, or about 20.5%. We also have the findings from the planning board. I'll just refer to them as items A through I. And then we also had people who spoke on behalf of the applicant. Started with Matthew Grunberg, counsel from Blish and Kavanaugh. Stated that the property is a substandard lot in an R10 zone, also in the 4.4 Coastal Overlay Resources Zone. It sits in the VE17 velocity flood zone, and any meaningful updates would require substantial work. The proposition is to demolish the existing structure and build a new structure as discussed, which maintains a similar amount of living space. The design team is using FEMA guidelines, elevating the first floor above the garage with 2 floors of living space above the garage. As we mentioned, there is not a height variance required. Section 12, Special Use Permit subsection 1, specifically authorized in Section 4.4, subparts 1, 3, and 6, which include excavating and construction. As mentioned, on August 6th, Mr. Grunberg submitted a supplemental memorandum. We'll enter that to the record. As noted, staff agreed with that assessment that a height variance is not required. Patrick Freeman from American Engineering, who is qualified as an expert witness for this matter, stated the existing dwelling has porches and decks, is located with the Atlantic Ocean on its eastern side, and the home currently has town sewer and water. The proposition, again, is a single-family home with a deck in the backyard, which would be disconnected from the deck to meet FEMA requirements. The proposed dwelling is located outside the velocity zone, and the proposed rain garden provides water quality improvement for the site. Proposing also that there be silt fences along the northeast and southerly parts of the property as well. The proposal is to reduce the structural lot coverage, as said, from 27.7% to 20.5%, and the impervious lot coverage would be reduced from 26.7% to 22.4%, and the roof lot coverage to meet the CRMC standard would be reduced from 15.7% to 15.1%. The plan also meets the hardscape and softscape requirements, he stated, and he also stated it would not interfere with public access to or use and enjoyment of tidal waters and shoreline features. He also said that it would not degrade the aesthetic and recreational values of tidal waters or diminish the natural diversity of shoreline features. He went on to say that it would not degrade existing water quality, adversely affect the circulation and flushing patterns of tidal waters, or diminish the value of tidal waters and shoreline features as habitat for fish, shellfish, wildlife, and wildfowl. It will also be reducing the impervious coverage of the site and therefore should reduce runoff. Also stated that it would provide water quality treatment where none existed, so will improve runoff for the site. He also stated the project will not increase the volume and velocity of stormwater or sedimentation of tidal waters or exacerbate potential shoreline erosion effects, and the proposed project would not diminish the value of any shoreline feature as a storm and hurricane buffer. Also stated the proposed project will not increase the volume and velocity of stormwater runoff or sedimentation. Any filling, grading, or other land alteration would be the minimum necessary to construct the proposed project, and the only grading proposed relates to the rain garden, the proposed rain garden. He concluded by saying the proposed project will not pose any threat to public health, public safety, or property, and that the property is not defined in an area as one defined of critical concern. Mason Calisi, owner of MLC Design, also spoke. He was accepted by the board as an expert in the field as well. He stated that a significant amount of his work is done in coastal areas of Rhode Island and serves as an architectural designer. The goal for the project was to get a structure similar in likeness and size and use to the existing property while taking into account its location in a flood zone. He stated that piers will hold the entire structure above the DFE. The ceiling heights are standard. The roof is dormered with a 6 pitch over a 4 pitch, and the proposed deck is a few inches farther away from the coastal feature than is the existing deck. He went on to state that the requested variance is not intended to make the home larger, more valuable, or visually appealing, but to move it farther from the flood zone and provide reasonable functional use of the property as a single-family home. And for those reasons, he stated that he believed that the hardship would amount to more than just a mere inconvenience. It was inquired on the FAR and whether it was being calculated, including the reduced square footage of the lot as a result of the coastal feature. And Mr. Calisi confirmed that was the case, and it was being calculated based on the net square footage. Staff agreed with the figure being the gross of 6,935 with a net of 5,435 square feet. And Mr. Calisi went on to state that were the gross figure to be used instead of the net figure, the lot would actually meet the requirement. It was also inquired around the FAR requirement again, and Mr. Calisi confirmed that at 35.98% increases the lot coverage by 133 square feet. Inquiry about the detached deck, and Mr. Calisi stated the proposed deck would have posts fully supporting the deck rather than the deck being supported in part by the house, so that in a worst-case scenario, the deck would not tear the house down were it to come down. And then Mr. Humes, the building official, confirmed that a detached deck is included in the building code requirement. Lindsay Seddon, co-owner and principal designer of House of LT Interiors, who was accepted by the board as an expert interior design, testified. She stated that her firm does work in the area and on coastal design. The owner engaged Mason Custom Homes and House of LT to team up on the project. As research progressed and contractors were consulted, it was determined that it wasn't feasible to renovate the property. They viewed neighboring properties to ensure the design was in keeping with the characteristics of the neighborhood, she testified, and that she believes the design enhances the neighborhood by replacing an aging home that is falling apart with a thoughtful design. Ms. Seddon also stated that the two adjacent properties have projects underway, one a new build, one a significant renovation. She further stated that the relief requested is driven by the coastal location and floodplain requirements and is not an effort to maximize the size of the house relative to the property. She stated that without the requested relief, it would be difficult to create a functional, code-compliant, forward-thinking home. There was an inquiry as to whether the nearby properties had been rebuilt or renovated. Whether those exceed the height, we won't get into that, as again, the variance isn't required there. But Ms. Seddon did submit for the record several photographs of neighboring properties, as well as a rendering, computer rendering of the proposed structure. There's also an inquiry on the sizes of the bedrooms, and Ms. Seddon said that 3 of the 4 bedrooms will accommodate a queen-size bed, and that would be about it. Further stated the proposed plan kept the same number of bedrooms as is the existing property, with an addition of a half bath. And Mr. Hume stated that per the plans, the primary bedroom is about 166 square feet, being 13 and a half by 12 and a third. Again, we mentioned the photographs and rendering that were entered. At that point, no additional people spoke as proponents of the proposal. The chair opened the floor for opponents of the application, and there were 2. Frank Batari lives at 15 Captain Freebody Road. He stated the proposed house is too big for the property and is against increasing the FAR and the height of the property. He stated that the existing home is to be demolished and a new one designed from a blank sheet, that it should be designed with the existing ordinances in mind. He also stated that the FAR exists so that the size of a house is appropriate to the size of the lot on which it sits. He further stated that the house at 43 Major Arnold was demolished and a new house is being built with a height of 27 feet, and that the proposed 2-car garage on this house is the reason for the height variance being needed. Again, it's been determined in the meantime that a height variance is not actually required per the code. Mr. Batari further stated that the character of the neighborhood is being adversely affected by the recent demolitions and rebuilds, and that at most one property in the neighboring area has a 2-car garage. He also stated that ordinance allows the board to consider air, light use, and silver access in its review. Mr. Grunberg rebutted that he's unaware of any easements relating to the subject property, and that Mr. Khaleesi had said the proposed first floor was designed so space wouldn't be lost just to a 4-foot crawl space. Again, we talked then, there was discussion of the freeboard, the base flood elevations, the height, again, variance is not required. And then additionally, Kathleen Batari also testified against the project, stating that the applicant is a new owner of the property, and that while the new property has a smaller FAR, the existing property's FAR includes the decks, and proposed property's FAR does not include the proposed deck. She concluded by saying the proposed house will be more massive, even though it has the same number of bedrooms. Mr. Khaleesi commented on that, saying that his calculation of FAR includes, for the existing home that is, includes the enclosed porch, but did not include the decks. So I would move that those be accepted as the findings of fact.
Mr. Chairman, prior to Mr. Ball finalizing his motion to enter the finding of facts, might I offer the following amendments? I'll bring your attention to finding of fact B. Currently, that reads that the application is not compliant with section 6.4 due to height. I would recommend, or staff would recommend, that that be stricken to read that it's just for that the reason that this no longer complies with dimensional regs is for floor area ratio only. And then if I can bring your attention to finding of fact D, the last sentence reads similarly, that the project is not compliant in height, excuse me, with height. Staff would recommend that that also be stricken, just that last sentence. Maybe stricken.
Yep. Yes.
Yes.
All right, is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Passes. What's the board's pleasure?
Would make a motion as to the determination. So I would move that, based on the following evidence, which had been part of the record, that the board finds that the hardship from section 4.4, from which the applicant seeks relief, is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure, and is not due to the general characteristics and to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to a physical or economic disability of the applicant. And on that basis, basically that it's the subject property's proximity to the coastal feature. Would also move that the board find that the hardship is not due to the result of a prior action of the applicant. Again, it's due to the subject property's proximity to the coastal feature. As it relates to the special use permit, I would move that the board concludes into the record that the project meets the standards for a special use permit, that it is specifically authorized by section 4.4, that the special use meets all the applicable requirements, development and performance standards and criteria set forth in section 4.4 of the Coastal Resources Overlay District in accordance with requirements of section 11, that it will not substantially or permanently injure the appropriate use of surrounding property, that the granting of the special use permit will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the ordinance or the comprehensive plan of the town. And in so doing, the board considered whether or not satisfactory provisions have been made concerning but not limited to ingress and egress, off-street parking and loading areas, trash, storage, delivery areas, utilities, screening and buffering with reference to type, dimensions, and character, signs, if any, and exterior lighting with reference to glare, traffic safety, and compatibility, required yards and other open space, and general compatibility with lots in the same or abutting zoning districts, that the granting of the special use permit will substantially serve the public convenience and welfare, that the use will not result in or create conditions inimical to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare, and that in addition to the above, the zoning board considered access to air, light, views, and solar access, public access to water, rivers, and streams, and the conservation of energy and energy efficiency. And note that in granting a variance in conjunction with a special use permit and overlay district, the zoning board must make those findings of fact, which define any environmentally sensitive features to be protected in the manner in which the granting of the special use permit and variance will enhance the protection of the environmentally sensitive features. Again, in terms of parking, the board reviewed the project use and level of activity and any special use permit criteria. And I would suggest the determination be made that the parking and/or loading requirements are not excessive. So on that basis, I would make a motion to approve the request for a special use permit and a variance from section 4.4.
Mr. Ball, can I just jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I just want to highlight, so there were two dimensional variances that were
Right.
needed. One we took away
Right.
because of a legal determination
Right.
and a factual determination. There still was that other FAR.
Right, and from the
variance that's
FAR,
needed.
sorry, and from the FAR variance as well.
And I may have missed it, so if I'm wrong, please let me know, but I was following along with your variance findings, and I just want to make sure you went through all the criteria there. I had you as far as the hardship was not prior action of the applicant.
Right.
Did you go through all the criteria there? Or maybe just for the purposes of the record, could you go through those again for 4.4 as well as 6.4?
Sure. So essentially that the hardship would be more than a mere inconvenience, and that the hardship is not due to any prior action of the applicant, but due to the unique characteristics of the subject property, namely its location, proximity to the coastal feature.
Mr. Ball, would you also like to include the conditions associated in the,
Yeah, I would ask that the conditions as stated by the planning board and the staff be incorporated into that as well.
and just for the record, that's conditions 1 through 7?
Yes.
And lastly, for clarity, your variances are again for 4.4 as well as 6.4.
That's right.
Great,
for the
thank you.
FAR.
All right, so just to be clear, the motion to be considered by the board is to grant a variance under section 4.4, a 187.2 variance from the Coastal Overlay District, and to grant a 0.03 floor area ratio variance. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, but no one opposed. 1, 2, 3, 5 zip. Got it. All right, thank you. You're all set. Just for everyone who's on the panel, when you're reading something, just so the stenographer knows, I know this because this is what I do for a living, you talk much faster than you, yeah, and so it's hard for her to take it down, so just slow down when you're reading something in the future. All right, the next matter on is Ocean Vibe Development LLC, Mahoney, Plat N, Lot 56, 0 Stanton Avenue.
Evening, Mr. Chairman.
Morning, Mr. McGreen.
Turn the heat up in here a little bit? It's cold.
Turn the heat up.
It's ridiculous. That's why taxes are so low.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jack McGreen for the applicant, with law offices located at 21 Garden City Drive, Cranston, Rhode Island. The applicant and owner is Ocean Vibe Development LLC. The property is a legal non-conforming lot located at 10 Stanton Street, at 10 Stanton Avenue, and located in R10 zone with a lot area of 6,975 square feet. The proposal before you is to construct a new 3-bedroom, single-family dwelling with a 2-tier deck. The applicant is seeking a 3.5-foot variance from the front yard setback and 163 feet of relief from the 200-foot setback requirement of Section 4.4, along with a special use permit that's required under Section 4.4. I have with me tonight John Mahoney, along with Ed Pimento, who's a certified planner, to address the standards to be met for the requested setback relief and the standards to be met under Section 4.4. Also, I have Joe McHugh, who's also testified before this board. He's a professional wetland scientist who will go through the development standards of Section 4.4. I was going to have Craig Carrigan here as well, who is the professional engineer who did the requirements under Section 7.7. He wasn't able to make it, but unfortunately, I don't know if that's in your packet, but we did get a letter from the engineering department saying that we comply with the Section 7.7. I think that should be in your packet now. It wasn't in there at the time the staff report was given, so, but I have a copy of it if you don't have it in your packet. Do you have a copy of it? Let me just do that while I... Of course, it's addressed to the prior owner of record. I think they took that name off the tax assessor database, but I can... And finally, I also have Jeff Gilman, who's the owner of Western Massachusetts Blasting Corporation and New England Rock Splitting Services. He's here to address the concerns raised in the staff report on the method of removal of a portion of a boulder that's located on my client's property in order to provide one of the parking spaces on the property. The boulder straddles the abutting parcel that was gifted to the Sea Breeze Improvement Association in 1964. It's used as a right-of-way for other people in the Platte to pass to and from the beach. The staff report had some concerns, but, and I'll have the rock splitter testify as to how he's going to do this, but my client has no intention of, you know, going onto that property or taking over a portion of that property. But obviously, he's going to reserve his right, like everybody else in the neighborhood, to be able to pass and repass by foot to get to and from the beach. So that being said, I'd like to call up Mr. Pimentel, who's testified before you on several occasions, swear him in, and I'd ask you that you acknowledge that he's an expert certified planner.
I do. For the record, the name is Edward Pimentel. That's P as in Paul, I-M-E-N-T-E-L.
For purposes of the record, we'll recognize Mr. Pimentel as an expert in residential planning. He's appeared before this board innumerable times.
Jack. Okay. So I've been involved with this project over several months now with Mr. Mahoney, the property owner, and working also to do we had a preliminary determination from CRMC. So what we've done over the last several months, and also, I wasn't there technically meeting with the planning board, although with the design team, was to work and scale the house down to minimize the amount of variances in the degree of relief that was required, and yet balance the characteristics of the substandard lot to realize a reasonable home and what's in character with the neighborhood. The first thing is that we're balancing a setback off of a coastal feature and yet trying to accommodate front yard setback. Otherwise, I went through all of the other regulatory standards and we comport with 100% hardscape, softscape, FAR, side yard setbacks, height, et cetera. So we really have work to try to minimize. Obviously, there's no longer any burdens in regards to least relief necessary, but good design will always try to minimize quantity and the intensity of the variances being pursued. We are asking for relief from the coastal feature. The entire property is within that 200-foot setback. So there's no way to avoid that variance or that relief. Impossibility. We obviously are entitled to some reasonable development rights of this property, and there's just no way to get around and avert needing that variance. In turn, as we're trying to push the home forward as close to the roadway to Stanton, we encounter a front yard setback requirement. So what I did was, and we actually, on one occasion, I requested that they request a continuance just to see if there was an ability to comport with the front yard setback based on average alignment. The Narragansett zoning regulations, similar to 90% of the zoning regulations in other communities, would prefer that you put your house at the average alignment so you have that same streetscape rather than houses sit back and houses forward, houses sit back and houses forward. And so in my neighborhood analysis, you'll see a category of what we did, and we measured by laser all of these homes. Several homes were set back quite far, and those skewed the numbers, because this is based on a mean, not a median. If it was based on a median, we would have been able to probably comport. There's one house that's 1.1 feet off the property boundary. There are several homes at 12 feet, 13, 14. We're at 13 and change. So we're in that character area, and the reason why I did this, not only to see if we could comply with the regs, but if not, to show that we were in character with this neighborhood. My neighborhood analysis took into consideration every single home along Stanton Avenue, both sides of the street. Not so amazingly, 20% of this neighborhood was constructed or redeveloped just in the last 15 years. Obviously, this is waterfront development. This is what's been happening over the last 10, 15, 20 years. So when we took this information, brought it back to the client, I said, the litmus test here is we have a substandard lot. We're trying to build something that's reasonable, but we need to balance something that's in character with the neighborhood. And what I mean by that is if you look on page 8 of 19, I laid out what the development construct is of the proposed home, and I compared it to all the characteristics of the neighborhood. Understanding that we had a smaller lot because you required 10,000, we have 6,975. We minimized the footprint. Just in the last, like I said, 15 years, of which 20% of this neighborhood was developed or redeveloped, we kept that to just 59% of the building coverage that those lots have developed at. Even more pertinent than that, these are stately homes that are being redeveloped, obviously, waterfront. Ours is 1/2 of the living area of these homes, even though this is a waterfront home. We understood we had constraints on this property. We would love to build an stately home on this property, but we know we can't. And that's how we were able to minimize it down to 2 variances. And even in regards to the lot frontage variance, we really minimized it down from a requirement of 17.44 feet, and we're at 13.9. It's a 3.54-foot variance. And the reason why we were thinking of going closer, but the property is uniquely cone-shaped, so the building envelope starts to get squeezed, and you get to a point that if you go any further, you're going to incur side yard setbacks. So we were balancing all of these requirements. So having said that, taking all the information that I had obtained, working with the design team, the objective, can we build this without any variances? No. What can we do to minimize the variances, both quantity and degree? We believe that this home is appropriate. It really is minimal when you compare it to the character of the neighborhood, but yet will still be in character with the neighborhood. So I am speaking to the dimensional requirements. We have other experts who will speak to the standards for the special use because those are more environmentally oriented. So number one, the 2-dimensional variances are In regards to front yard setback, in the R10 district, we have a proportionate reduction, so it's 17.44 feet. Our proposed is 13.90. That incurs a 3.54-foot variance. In regards to the coastal feature, which is documented by that upper dashed line, it's a 200-foot setback. We are 37 feet off to the closest point to the structure, and it's a 163-foot dimensional variance. I would contend that the hardship results from the unique characteristics of the property. We are dealing with a substandard lot. It's approximately 1/3 deficient in that. We are dealing with a constrained building envelope, both resulting from the substandard lot area as well as the cone-shaped. We don't have a typical traditional rectangular lot. And then, of course, we're dealing with a coastal feature that we're really trying to maintain as great a separation from as physically possible. All of these conditions have been long established. This lot was well platted prior to even zoning regulations, so none of these characteristics were the result of this owner or any prior owner, so it's not self-created hardship. I did do an analysis of the comprehensive plan. It speaks to infill development. It speaks to infill development in high-density areas. This is classified high density by your comprehensive plan. I do the neighborhood analysis to show how we're not going to have any negative impact on the neighborhood. That's why I spent probably more time on this before I even start the report. And then there's some other requirements here, access to air, light views, and other solar accesses. Like I said, we've kept this massing and the scale home, respecting the surrounding neighbors. I know neighbors are always concerned about view sheds and so forth. Although they're not legally protected, you still respect those conditions. Number two, public access to water bodies, rivers, and streams. As council's already noted, we're not going to impact the property to the right that provides access. We just want to utilize our property in an appropriate manner as is our due right. And then the conservation and energy efficient. This home will be meeting all new current codes, including the recently adopted new energy codes. So it is my final conclusion that if this were to be denied, it would result in hardship amounting to more than a mere inconvenience, because in fact it would preclude the ability to utilize the property for the least intrusive permissible land use, meaning single family. And I mean, you could almost argue that it meets the improbable burden of a use variance, even though we don't need to do that. So I feel it meets all the standards for the granting of the dimensional relief, both the coastal feature setback and the front yard setback. Do you have any questions?
Well, I have one inquiry of staff. So I think at least 2 or 3 years ago, I think the property that's immediately to the east of this, we granted another coastal resources setback variance for them to build the house that's there currently. Do you have any recollection of that, or were you not here then?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't present.
Yeah.
I wasn't working for the town at that
I
point.
don't know, is there any way to blow that up? I mean, there's the house directly to the east they were before us on several years ago, and we approved, I guess it would be N57, which is, again, pushed as far away from the coastal setback as possible. I'm just raising that as a point. I guess you weren't here. All right. Is there any questions for Mr. Pimentel?
I have a question for zoning attorney.
Ms. Catonio, can you please use your mic?
I am so sorry. I have a question for our zoning counsel, because there was a phrase that the expert used that I'd be interested in getting clarification on. He said that the owner is entitled to reasonable development rights. What is the law in Rhode Island if an individual buys an undeveloped land in a situation similar to this? Is there a development right? Is there a use right? What is the state of the law?
Sure, I don't know exactly what Mr. Pimentel was referring to, but my interpretation of what he meant was they're entitled to permitted uses within a zoning district. I don't want to speak for you, but
That is correct, and the least intensive, intrusive, and most in character would be the by right usage for single-family purposes. So it's not so much the concern with the use that's being proposed, it's really when we come before a body, and I do a lot of substandard lot development throughout the state, it's usually the issue with the massing and scale versus the relief requested, even though they did get rid of least relief necessary. But do you need that to realize a home that's appropriate? So the question becomes, how do you define that? That's why I do the neighborhood analysis. Yes, if I have a 20,000 square foot lot, I have a much sizable building envelope, I can build more. I can accommodate more massing and scale, more floor area ratio, et cetera. This is common sense. When you've got a smaller lot, you've got to squeeze down your perception of what you would love to put on the property, but at the same time, you're never going to tell somebody, build a doghouse. It'll accommodate your needs, because it's got to be reasonable in light of the fact that this is, as of 2 legislative cycles ago, is when this burden was changed. And that is the mere inconvenience, which now reads, because this is not the way it used to read up until a couple of years ago. In granting a dimensional variance, that the hardship that will be suffered by the owner of the subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, shall amount to more than a mere inconvenience. And this is where they defined it, which shall mean that the relief sought is minimal to the reasonable enjoyment of the permitted use to which the property is being devoted. So we're asking for a permitted use, and we're saying that this is the only thing we need is these two dimensional variances. In addition to the special use permit, which we will show that we can meet the specific and objective standards that are associated with that via the other experts. But the point is, if somebody says, well, you got to comply with the relief, well, then the whole building envelope would be extinguished because the whole lot is within the coastal feature. So there has to be something somewhere in the middle that's reasonable. What is that? We do the neighborhood analysis. We compare that and contrast that to the characteristics of the substandard lot. We've redesigned this twice to meet CRMC. They've met with planning board, et cetera, et cetera. We believe, like I said, we're 1/2 of the homes, living area-wise, of the homes built in the last 15 years, which is 20% of this neighborhood. I believe we've met the burden that we really are balancing the town's regulations and the needs and desires of the people who are going to live in this home.
Let me ask the question a different way, just because we've always wanted clarification on this, and since you're a municipal planner, when it comes to these coastal resources overlay district situations, if we didn't grant a variance for every single one of these coastal properties, wouldn't this constitute a regulatory taking that would implicate the takings clause of the
Absolutely.
Constitution?
It is absolutely, and in fact, we've had this conversation. So I believe this proposal is very reasonable, so there was no reason to go down this avenue, but I'll go down the avenue. The reason why most of these overlay districts have been extinguished is because several years ago, a good 10, 15 years ago, when DEM was promulgating the new regulations, the law was, once DEM promulgates its new regulations, all local cities and towns can't supersede that authority. And then if you look at, and I'm being careful here because I don't want to cross the boundaries of law here, we have an attorney. But if you look at the supremacy clause, the reason why you have a 200-foot coastal setback is because CRMC has a 200-foot jurisdictional obligation to anything built within the coastline. So that's what you did. You mirrored theirs, but what CRMC is saying, you come to us anytime you do any improvement within 200 feet of a coastline, and we make sure that it meets our standards environmentally and so forth. So if we get approved here, then we go to CRMC. But you're right. We couldn't even be able to get their CRMC to prove that if you denied it, because there would be a regulatory takings and we can't move on to CRMC. So I don't know how you apply or balance that requirement under 4.4. I don't know.
Maybe I just don't understand what a regulatory taking is, but, so it would be an unconstitutional taking of property if you didn't grant this special use permit, or you're saying the variance.
I think what Mr. Pimentel is saying is that it would box in the lot to the point where it would be undevelopable and people would not have any reasonable use of the property.
All waterfront
When
lots.
you buy it, you know that.
Yeah, but it's a permitted use.
I know,
of a
but
single
all
family.
waterfront lots are within 200 feet of a coastline. So what you're saying is unless you already got lucky before you adopt this regulation, there'll be no further development in the waterfront. That's, if you actually applied that in its strictest stance and you denied it. That should not be the nature of any law, ever, because everybody is entitled to reasonable property rights and development of their lots.
And that would be a denial of all beneficial use, and quite frankly, the town would have to buy the lot if they didn't want us to build on it. That's what it would come down to.
Or you build something within the zoning requirement.
But you cannot.
And it's 200
The
feet.
entire lot is within, there is no way you can
Entire
avoid that
lot,
variance.
okay.
No way, it's an impossibility.
See, CRMEC took the 200 feet as jurisdictional.
Right.
Whereas the town said, we're not only going to make it jurisdictional, we're going to make it a setback.
Right.
Which to me, that 4.4 should be kicked out the door.
I just find it laughable that for this subject matter to come up with these two gentlemen who call me on their own time to talk about these issues and bend my ear on it. I just think we're getting a follow where we need to be. That's more legislative as the
I
chair
agree.
goes.
Well,
absolutely agree.
Right.
didn't see the I mean,
I'm not even going
I
to
know.
touch the taking, but nonetheless, we have the relief that's needed based on the town ordinances as they read today and the standards that we have to apply.
That's why we accepted them, and we made a legitimate legal argument as to why we feel we comport and balance the relief required off of the coastal feature versus the front yard setback. I mean, we could squeeze this house down to a 10 wide by a 10 cubicle box, and we would still need the relief. And nobody would ever approve a house that size, right? So that's my point.
I do have one more question. So the house designs show that it's on pilings.
Yes.
It's raised. Are all the houses on that raised, are some of more of the houses that are
So-
along that area raised also?
So the newer homes that have been built since the flood zone regulations have changed, and also, so when you're building new or you've been remodeling over the last several years, you have to be above the flood zone.
Okay, so those
Many of
pilings,
these
those are
homes-
required. That's required.
Right. Many of these homes are not because they predate those regulations. So if you look to page,
Because the pilings
and
do help.
by the
with
way, it's the reason
parking.
why I do this, to answer those questions. If you look to page 8 of 19 to the bottom, so 1989 and earlier, there's 35. So like I said, I actually looked at every home from end to end of Stanton Avenue, both sides of the street. So 1989 and earlier, you're looking at 35 residences constituting 65% of the neighborhood. And then 1990 through the present is 35%, and just in the last 15 years is. But if you look down the list, you're looking at 1938, 1950, 1946, 1950. You're looking at 1930. So there's a lot of homes that they've been around for many years. But if you're going to remodel, especially if you exceed that 50% threshold in value, then you got to bring it up to code and so forth, yeah? So this home will meet current
And
codes.
that didn't cause you to go above the height?
No, we don't need a height variance. We don't need floor area ratio, we don't need hardscape,
But
we
it
don't need
did
any of
help
those.
with the parking, because you were able to park underneath.
We're meeting the parking standards and everything,
Yeah.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next person I'd like to call up is Joe McHugh, who also has testified before this board. And he's a professional wetland scientist. If you'd be so kind as to acknowledge, and swear him in, and then recognize him as an expert in the
Hi.
area.
Joseph P., oh. Okay. I do. Yes, Joseph P. McHugh, it's capital M, small c, capital C-U-E. I own McHugh Environmental. It's a wetland consulting firm. I've been wetland consulting now for about 30 years.
You are recognized as an environmental consultant,
Yes.
so recognized.
Thank you, Mr.
you.
Chairman. Joe, would you be so kind as to go through those development standards that you had initially put in an affidavit form, but you're here tonight, so you
Yes.
need to submit the affidavit.
Yeah, happy to. Excuse me. Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick background. So I worked on this property. I'm the one that delineated the coastal feature. There's different ways to delineate coastal features. This is the back of a beach. CRMC agreed with me. So from that point, this is where the setbacks and buffer zones and everything gets applied to. You can see there's a 25-foot buffer zone required on this size lot and the water use type. So when you look at the coastal regulations, this lot requires a 25-foot buffer zone. This happens to have a fully vegetated 25-foot buffer zone that we're not touching. Beyond that, it gets, well, from the coastal feature, there's a 50-foot construction setback applied to that. That's what's shown right where the house is. So we did get the house out of that setback. Decks are allowed in that setback. So with that, I want to go through the standards. This is section 4.4C. This is number 1. The proposed project will not interfere with public access to or use and enjoyment of tidal waters and shoreline features. As it was stated previously, there's a public access right to the north of the property. No intention at all to interfere with that. So that will not, this development will not interfere with public access. Number 2, the proposed project will not degrade the aesthetic and recreational values of tidal waters or diminish the natural diversity of shoreline features. This might be repetitive on a couple of these, but we are not proposing work on any coastal water, coastal feature, or even buffer zone. So the aesthetic recreational values attributed to the tidal waters will not be affected by this proposal. Number 3, the proposed project will not degrade existing water quality or adversely affect the circulation and flushing patterns of tidal waters or diminish the value of tidal waters and shoreline features as habitats for fish, shellfish, wildlife, and wildfowl. Again, it's almost a repetitive answer. We are not proposing any work in coastal waters, on coastal features, or even the buffer zone. So those will continue to perform their functions and values. Number 4, the proposed project will not increase the volume or velocity of stormwater runoff or sedimentation of tidal waters or exacerbate the potential for shoreline erosion or flooding. This project proposes stormwater BMPs and a limit of work for erosion and sedimentation controls. I don't believe this will interfere with, this will not increase the volume or velocity of stormwater runoff. Number 5, the proposed project will not diminish the value of any shoreline feature as a storm or hurricane buffer. Again, we're not touching coastal feature or buffer zone, so that buffer zone will continue to perform its function as it currently does. 6, any filling, grading, excavating, and other land alteration will be the minimum necessary to construct the proposed project. I do concur with Mr. Pimentel that this is the minimum necessary for this project. Again, from CRMC's standpoint, we have the structure outside of the coastal setback, and we are meeting actually all CRMC buffer zone standards and setbacks. 7, the proposed project will not pose any threat to public health, public safety, or property. Again, in relative to the environment and to the coastal features, we are not proposing any work that will degrade any functions or values of the coastal feature, tidal waters, or the buffer zone. And number 8, that's the long one, but I think I'll go right to the response where we are not in an area of critical concern, and we're not in an area of self-sustaining lands, and nor are we adjacent to any poorly flushed estuaries. Again, we're keeping that 25-foot buffer zone, which is requirement of CRMC, and we do meet, in this current plan, the CRMC standards. With that, that I can answer questions or...
No. Do you have any further questions?
you.
Thank you.
My next and final witness. There was this, on page 3 of the staff report, there was a concern. It says that as a portion of the boulder is located on the adjacent private parcel in Lot 167. That's the lot I referred to, that was that right-of-way that was donated to a nonprofit corporation in Rhode Island, and it was really for the benefit of all the people in the plat to pass and repass by foot. There is a rock, the staff report states that we need to address the exact methods and area of proposed disturbance on both their property and the adjacent private parcel. So I have an expert rock splitter here who will be actually doing the work. Never had to call an expert rock splitter before, but here he is, and he'll tell you exactly what he's going to do.
I do. Jeffrey Gilman, Jeffrey, last name Gilman, Gilman.
And Mr. Gilman, would you just describe briefly your expertise in the area of rock splitting?
Second generation owner of Western Mass Blasting Corp. And New England Rock Services, Inc. I'm primarily a blasting contractor with the use of explosives, but I also have revenues from non-blasting situations, and it's called hydraulic rock splitting without the use of explosives.
Mr. Chairman, if that's sufficient information, I'd ask you that you recognize this person as an expert rock splitter.
We can recognize him as both a blasting contractor and a hydraulic rock splitter.
Thank you,
How's
Mr.
that?
Chairman. And would you just briefly describe how you intend to split that rock along the property line?
We have an air-operated rotary drill that drills a certain size hole that will accept the hydraulic rock splitter. The hydraulic rock splitter is basically just a wedge that hydraulically moves up and down between two feathers. And when the wedge goes down, the feathers expand and it causes the rock to fracture along the line that we drill the holes. So we could drill a series of holes in a straight line, put the rock splitter in it, and it'll fracture right on that line, make a perfectly straight face.
And would there be any need to go onto the abutting property line in order to do that work?
No, not at all.
No further questions?
Questions? Being none, we're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, I'd just like to, I forget about this, John Mahoney to come up and talk about, there was a concern about the deck on the house not being freestanding. So, John, if you could just explain to the board how you intend to build that deck and get sworn in first.
I do. My name's John Mahoney. John, common spelling, John, Mahoney, Mahoney. All right, in reference to this deck, it is a requirement from CRMC. It is, in fact, a detached deck. I did have conversation with the building official on this. The plans do depict clearly helical piles and pier foundations both in the front of the deck and the back of the deck, meaning towards the ocean and up against the house, indicating that it'll carry the beams structurally for that deck to be freestanding from the house. So it'll be compliant with CRMC. And we have recently, a month ago or so, amended one of the pages in the building plans with some additional language to ensure that the building official was aware that it was a freestanding deck. And we spoke in person as it relates to this issue, and I think we both have a clear understanding that it is in fact going to be freestanding.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Mahoney? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That completes our presentation.
Okay.
I have a question for staff.
Sure.
And I didn't interrupt earlier because I didn't know when it was relevant relating to these witnesses, but
Ms. Coutinho, can you please use your mic?
I have a question for staff. This might not be in the correct order as it relates to witnesses. I don't know where it fits in, and it's more a question for clarification. Now, I know that we're going to make our own determination based upon the evidence, but I was curious about the staff report on page 8 where it says, the planning board had recommended denial for the following reasons: that the application is not compliant with the requirements of 18.5, specifically requirement number 1. And number 1 is said to be compliance with all applicable development and performance standards. What are they talking about there?
Sure. So what the planning board is referencing is, they have a set of standards that they review from section 18.5, and I think there's 18, 20 different standards. And that's what they review during their, when they're reviewing applications for recommendations. So what they're specifically referencing are the development and performance standards for the special use permits and variances. And their denial reasonings were rather general. They didn't make, there wasn't a specific.
Okay, so how do those standards overlap with our standards of review for our deliberation on whether it should be allowed? Do they overlap? Are they the same?
So section 18 is different. However, the reference to the applicable development and performance standards would overlap in that you would be reviewing the requirements that are on, starting on page 5, where it says standards to be met in granting the requested relief.
So, I'm sorry, 5, standards to be met.
Those were the standards that my expert witness went over?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, so I understand, and again, I know we're going to make our own decision here tonight. They heard similar testimony. They came to one conclusion. We're now here to make a new determination based upon the testimony we hear. Okay, just want to be clear on that.
I will make one note. I believe the planning board did review different set of plans, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. McCray.
The only change we made, which came in after those plans were submitted, was we were before CRMC, and CRMC asked us to remove the, well, John, why don't you come up here? They asked us to remove, I believe, the roof that was on the deck, and so that was the change we made to comply with CRMC in order to get a positive recommendation from CRMC. Because as the staff noted initially in the CRMC report, they thought it would be, they wouldn't approve it, and that's why we removed that deck, that roof. But you can,
Yeah, so there were several versions of this, this building that were draft, and they were modified and altered a couple times at the request of CRMC. On the second-tier deck, we had the plans labeled, it was a hot tub room, and it was labeled unconditioned space. It had a shed roof on it because the wildlife would destroy it. They drop the clams and the crabs and they break it. So it was to protect the hot tub. It was, again, unconditioned, no heat, no AC. It had an 8-foot by 4-foot window that was open to the elements all the time, which is the structure of it. CRMC was not happy with it, so we re-amended the plans again, and we removed it entirely. It's not there anymore. It's just a 2-tiered deck. So that has been completely eliminated.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep, and just for clarification, the plans that Mr. Mahoney are referencing are, they're being presented right now. The ones on the screen show the enclosed hot tub space.
Okay.
right, we have submitted a revised set of plans.
Yep, and then those are the revised set that is being displayed now.
Thanks. All right, is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of this petition? Hearing none, is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this petition? Come on up, sir. Have to just...
I do. Neil Wyszynski, it's Neil-Wyszynski, and I'm the owner of 8 Elm Avenue, I had to remember my address, which is around the corner. And frankly, it pains me to come before you and speak against the project, and I'm not against the project completely. There's been a lot of change in the neighborhood, and perhaps I contributed to that change. I did knock my house down and build another house. But everyone else has followed the rules. And that's kind of what I'm appealing to you. The planning board heard the same testimony maybe they had different plans, but they said no. So I would ask you to continue this until the planning board felt satisfied that their conditions were being satisfied. I'll also note this is a sensitive site, and it's fitting that this is on the 25th anniversary of Hurricane Bob, because the property next to it is the only property in the neighborhood that I'm aware of that was destroyed in Hurricane Bob. So this is a sensitive site. I'm glad to hear that the right-of-way that the neighborhood really depends on will be preserved, because that was a big concern. And I'll also note that the report before you made note of a late report that it said that staff hadn't reviewed. Perhaps they have now, but I would say this is not ready for prime time and ask that they come back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition to this petition? Come on up if you want to follow up on that, or...
I just want to follow up on the objector's concerns.
Yeah, I can only say that when I did my analysis, like I said, we're comparing lots to lots, homes to homes. The lot is approximately the same size at 6,500 square feet with a much, much larger structure with, I don't know, if you look at it on Google Earth, because we did receive the letter from an FAR, setback and everything perspective, it looks like, just visually, I don't know what it comports with. So the point is, maybe it predates zoning, that's a possibility, but the point is, people come forward and negate the ability of somebody to utilize their lot because they need relief. And they don't look inwards at their own property as to what do they comport with from a zoning perspective. So I would just ask the board to take a look at this property and compare and contrast. That's all I would say.
Anybody else?
No, Mr. Chairman.
There's someone with a hand up in the back. Are you in favor or in opposition?
I'm just a local resident who, I'm not against it, but I have a significant concern with the right-of-way. Yes. Carolyn Machado, Carolyn, last name Machado, Machado. My concern is not with the house, my concern is with the right-of-way. And I understand it's going to be preserved, but I don't know if you've all gone down to this site. This is the last parcel that's open to the ocean. For many of us who have lived there for decades, it's the right-of-way to the beach. It's a significant area for surfers to come. They park along there, they come through. I'm concerned because the parcel has been purchased. Whoever is going to buy this is not going to realize that they are buying a piece of land that surfers are going to come to, fishermen, people are going to be going there day and night. And like other areas I've watched get developed along Stanton, they put cute kind of little fencing and other things to kind of just distract the public from going there. And eventually people don't have access to the ocean anymore. So I would hope that whoever decides to live or purchase this home is given the full information of what they're buying. They're buying a community area that people come to. It's a very significant part of our community. And although a house could certainly fit there, I think the future owners deserve to know that this is a very well-traversed area. People have fire pits they do down there. There's fireworks that got lit off there. I mean, this is the area everyone comes to. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention if it hadn't been brought before. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? You have any concluding statement, Jack, before we close
I'll just briefly
this?
respond to the previous person. My client intends to fully utilize his property. He may or may not put a fence up along that property line. He's not going to block the right-of-way. As a matter of fact, his people will probably use that right-of-way as well. But he's certainly not going to allow people to walk through his property. I mean, it's his property. I mean, if people were trespassing in the past, well, so be it. But he's putting a house up there, and there's a huge right-of-way to the right, and this house isn't even It's well to the left of the right-of-way where people actually walk. But to answer the question, he's not going to block the right-of-way. People are going to continue to use the right-of-way, but they're not going to be able to walk through his property. I don't think they've been walking through this property. I think they have been using that sandy path. That's pretty clear. I don't know if we have an overhead. Yeah, see the sandy path right there? That's not going away. That's going to stay there. There's the path to the beach. But where the grass is, that's his property. Thank you.
Well, I can say that I'm extremely familiar with the area.
So am I.
I use it all the time, and my understanding is that that is a separate lot owned by a nonprofit.
It is owned by a
company or
nonprofit.
private company that's kept it open to the public.
Yeah, and just, I did a little research on that nonprofit, just coincidentally. That nonprofit went defunct about 20 years ago, I think. So it's not even an active, so I think when that goes away, then whoever has an ownership interest in the nonprofit corporation, it goes to them. So my client also has an ownership interest in that right away as well. So.
All right, is there a motion to close the testimony in this case?
Motion to close.
Second? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Are you in favor of closing?
Closing the hearing, sorry.
Wake you up. All right, what, is there a motion?
Motion for finding of facts.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the project is Ocean Vibe Development LLC, Plat N, Lot 56. Is it 10 Staten, or is it 0?
It's,
10.
Mr. Trenchow, it is 0. It doesn't
It
have
is 0?
a 911 address yet.
The proposal is to build a 26 by 38 three-bedroom house, single-family dwelling, 10 by 33 two-tier rear deck with a 510 rooftop deck. The proposed square footage would be 1354 with a coverage of 19.4. Oops, excuse me. The first witness was Mr. Pimentel, who spoke in reference to the variances needed for 4.4 and for 6.4. I would propose that we have his report submitted as part of the facts. He went through a total analysis of the neighborhood, comparing lot setbacks, coverage, and with that lot, his conclusion, which I agree, would be the minimum amount of house that's being built that's trying to satisfy the 200-foot, which you can't do because you're within that 200 feet, but the requirement of having a variance of only 163 feet, I think is minimum, as well as the front yard setback of 3.5, because you're trying to balance having it as far away from the ocean as you could. The second witness was Mr. Mahoney, who's 4.4, spoke to special use permit.
I think you may have misspoken. You mean Mr. McHugh.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Mrs.
sorry.
McHugh, I apologize. Can't read my own writing. Mr. McHugh spoke about development standard for Section 4.4 Coastal Resource Overlay District. He went through numbers 1 through 8. In all cases, they were not, should I read each one of them, or can I just say in total? Okay. In his reporting and testimony of 1 through 8, in all cases, the project will not interfere or diminish the effects of the various numbers 1 through 8, and will all comply with numbers, again, 1 through 8. The next witness was Mr. Jeffrey Gilman, if I pronounced it correctly. And he spoke about the blasting or the cutting of the rock that's to the southern, is that the south? Up in the corner, top corner, by drilling holes in various lines along the line where you need to cut it, and then a hydraulic splitter will be used to actually split the rock. That will maintain all access to right-of-way. Then we have, I believe next we had,
I think Mr. Mahoney testified. Mr. Mahoney testified, I think, was the fourth witness.
Ms. Mahoney. Okay. I'm sorry. Mr. Mahoney was the fourth witness, which testified about the freestanding deck, which is a requirement of CRMC as well as Narragansett, and he testified that it will be freestanding. We had nobody speak in favor of the project. We had two people speak in opposition. The theme I had written down in my notes were the preserving of right-of-way, which was spoken, I think, by both people that testified. And it was also reiterated by the attorney for Ocean Vibe that the right-of-way will be maintained and will not be diminished by the development. Did I miss any? Staff? Did I?
I don't think so, Mr. Trennis. I think you got everything.
Okay. Those are my facts, finding of facts.
Is there a second? Is there a second on findings of fact?
I second the motion of the finding of facts.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, what's the board's pleasure?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the relief requested, Section 4.4 Coastal Resource Overlay District, 163 feet variance and special use permit, and Section 6.4 dimensional variance, 3.5 foot front yard setback, based upon the evidence, the facts that I had submitted, and
There are
The
some conditions, aren't there?
conditions from staff was,
The conditions start on page 4
page 4?
and continue through 5.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Number 1 was eliminated. 2 through 10, to please include that as subject twos, the conditional relief.
And condition 3 was deleted as well. So
I'm sorry.
It would be conditions,
2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
got it.
1 and 3 were eliminated.
Is there a second to that motion?
Mr. Chairman, before it's seconded, I would ask if Mr. Treniso wanted to make any specific findings to, that the board may want to include in his motion to approve, specifically in reference to the variances and the 2 variances in the special use permit being requested.
What I would include is the testimony from Mr. McHugh, which speaks to the special use permit, and also the testimony from Mr. Pimentel, which speaks to the neighborhood, the houses, the setbacks, and the various lot coverage, and as support for the relief.
Just one suggestion, Dave. I think what Ryan might have been getting at is if we go through on page 5, by way of example, if we go through the variance standards, for instance, that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not the general characteristics of the surrounding area. It sounds like you've made that finding. If you could just put some meat on the record as to what supported that finding. And
So the
the coastal feature is what persuaded you there. I'm not saying that's what you decided, but that may be a good example.
The hardship that the applicant is seeking is due definitely to the unique characteristic of the subject land and general characteristics of the surrounding area. The hardship is not a result of any prior action from the applicant because it's a vacant lot. The granting of the requested variance will not alter the general characteristics or surrounding area as documented by Mr. Pimentel's report, characteristics of the areas. The project will not impact access to air, light, views, solar access, and again, I would state that the right-of-way will be maintained. Public access to water bodies, rivers, streams will be maintained. The conservation of energy and energy efficiency. Section 1112 of the zoning ordinance and granting special requirement. The hardship that will be suffered by the owner is more than a mere inconvenience. The lot would not be able to be developed, so it would definitely qualify. The fact that the use may be profitable is not relevant to our discussion.
Is that sufficient, Nick, or do you want?
No, that's great, and that's in, not to get off track, but we'll talk about later with the Superior Court decision we got. That's what we want to do. We want to mesh facts with the legal standard. The legal standard is up here, and then we're going to mesh the facts that support that, what the board finds to support that. So, in Ryan being the lucky guy who often drafts these decisions, I think it helps him. My suggestion would be if we can do the same briefly for the special use permit standards. I think you're spot on. So just if we could go through those, that would be great.
Yes, I think, David, if you just go through the special use standards
Sure.
and then incorporate the testimony of Mr. McHugh, which supports those, that would be satisfactory.
That the special use is specifically authorized by this ordinance and setting forth the subsection of the ordinance containing the authorization. That would be the section 12, sorry. Sections 12, 4, 7, 17, 18. The special use meets all applicable requirements for set forth in section 12. The dimensional setbacks, as I mentioned, was due to the characteristics of the actual lot being, houses being built on. It will not substantially or permit injure appropriate use of surrounding properties. I believe it was testified that it was the last lot being developed. The granting of a special use permit will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. It would actually conform to the surrounding areas. Egress and ingress to lot, existing proposed structures, partial reference traffic flow will not be impacted. Off-street parking, it has shown that it's going to have the off-street parking required. Trash, utilities, screening, will all comply. The granting of the special use permit will substantially serve the public convenience and welfare. That the use will not result in or create conditions to inimical the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. The zoning board will also, as I mentioned, about access to light, public access, conservative energy.
I think think all you need to add to that is that all of those elements
Yeah,
were
all-
substantiated by Mr. McHugh's testimony.
Yes, all of the elements for development standards were put into the records by Mr. McHugh in his testimony.
Okay, now is there a second?
Point of procedure, I would like to move to add some supplemental information to what has been moved. Do I do that after this motion, or is discussed, or can I do it now? What's the procedure?
So it's David's motion. You may ask if he would consider your input in incorporating in his motion. Is that?
Consider my input, David.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. It seems to me that it's undisputed by everyone that this property abuts a right-of-way. The information and documentation that has been submitted by the applicant also suggests that he has a Class 2 survey in his hand. There was an opponent who was talking about public access to the beach. I would suggest that we incorporate in section, let's see here, special use permits, section 8, special conditions, specifically F, designating the exact location of the development. Would you consider amending your findings to require as an additional condition that the applicant place prominent granite markers visible to the public on the two corners of the property line that abuts the right-of-way, so that there's no confusion as to what is the applicant's property versus what is the public right-of-way?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. And, I'm going to suggest something very specific. Granite markers sometimes are 6 inches off the ground. Let's say we go 3 feet, do the large granite markers, so there's no confusion later on. The concern of one of the opposing people was that somebody's going to come in and not understand what the boundary is. I think this would resolve any disputes up front by providing notice to everyone.
Are there any requirements by CRMC as far as what markers can be placed there?
I think the requirement is very similar to what is being suggested.
Perfect.
And I just checked with applicants' counsel. They intended on doing just that. So it was going to happen anyway.
It would be visible, Nick. There's going to be something above the ground and not a mark.
I'll ask Mr. McGreen. What?
Sand on.
Sure.
There'll be the standard height CRMC required buffer markers at each corner. They're not going to stand 5 feet tall.
What's standard height?
Well, their minimum, is 24 inches.
I'm
Would
sorry.
be that, 24 inches would be their minimum accepted.
Thank you.
And their minimum requirement would be a 4x4, pressure-treated 4x4. We're going to do granite bounds.
I would
think we should incorporate
include
it
that.
in.
I would amend it to include what was just spoken as far as the markers. It's a good idea, because over time, it has a tendency of drifting lines, so.
One of you and just incorporate into your decision that there'll be
Oh, okay.
4 boundary markers of
Actually,
granite
2, I think,
markers,
right? 'Cause it's only-
Only
2
two.
feet above the surface of the ground. Is that
believe there'll be 2 markers, because he only owns that one side.
that side? Correct, I'm sorry.
24 inches, granite markings, markers rather, that will delineate where the right-of-way is versus the property owner. Okay.
All right, is there now a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. 5-0. Do you need to take a break? You sure? Keep those fingers going over there. The next matter is, the next matter is Narragansett Realty Trust McKenna, Plat NH, Lot 145, 0 Emery Street. And just before we start, Mr. McGreen, this one we may want to write a decision on. We've never had before us a situation where we're asked for a variance to extend a roadway. So it just may we may want to just write something up on this.
I know there was one other application I looked at, so if there's any help, I can probably send that to the planner. There was another one that I looked at that was similar. I think Jill actually referred me to it, say, take a look at this one, this is what we did on that.
Okay.
So, anyway. I don't have 5 witnesses, I just have my client here this evening, so this is pretty straightforward. Jack McGreen for the applicant. Office is located at 21 Garden City Drive, Cranston, Rhode Island. The applicant and owner is Mark McKenna. The property is located on Emery Street and is identified as Lot 145 on Assessors Plat N-H. If you're not familiar with the area, it's right across the street or down the street from the Chinese restaurant in the north end of town, just up from Twin Willows. The lot is a legal non-conforming lot of record located in R20 zone with a lot area of 16,658 square feet. I actually took a drive by there on my way into the meeting this evening. It's a pretty quiet, I didn't even know it was there, and I live right up the street. It's behind the Chinese restaurant, very quiet, nice area. The project meets all the other applicants seeking to construct a 4-bedroom, single-family dwelling with an attached 2-car garage and a covered porch. The project meets all of the dimensional requirements of Section 6.4 and will be serviced by a private well and then an on-site wastewater treatment system. The applicant's proposing to extend Emery Street 45 feet, constructed to town standards, rather than paving the full length of Emery Street, and therefore he's seeking a 115-foot variance from the road frontage requirements of Section 25.1 that requires you to, complete the road construction that fronts your property. I'll just address briefly the standards that need to be met. The hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the lot. I think it is, as the lot is the last lot located on a dead-end street. Because the road is a dead end, can you bring the overhead up maybe to just the overhead? Yeah, there you go. So it's located on a dead-end street because the road is a dead end. There is no through traffic that needs to pass past that driveway. The hardship is not self-created, as it is an existing lot of record on a dead-end street. And in my opinion, the hardship amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, as paving up to the driveway, if you go up to the next plan that shows where the driveway begins and the pavement ends, can someone just click up to the next? There it is. Nope, back there, yeah. Yep. So you'll see where, he's going to be paving up to the driveway, and that gives my client a full and safe use of his home. There is a letter, I believe, in your packet from the fire marshal's office in your packet stating that the turnaround or a turnaround is not required. Requiring Mr. McKenna to pave beyond his driveway provides zero extra benefit to him or the public, and transforms like a standard project like this into a very expensive project that adversely impacts not only him, but the neighborhood and the environment, because you'll be cutting down. When I went back there, there's a bunch of trees in the back there that would all have to be cut down in order to pave the full length of that road. And finally, the project will not alter the general characteristics of the surrounding area, as it maintains the visual character of the neighborhood. Leaving the trees provides an immediate aesthetic buffer between his new home and the existing neighbors, keeping the visual impact low. You'll see all those trees. Could you go back to that picture right there? Yeah, that's what I saw. So going straight through, all those trees directly in front would have to be cut down in order to fully bring that road to town standards. So with that being said, I do have Mr. McKenna here. I know there was an issue with the bedroom, I think in the staff report that he can address. So Mr. McKenna, why don't you come up and just briefly, you just tell the town what you want to do, how you're constructing the lot, but first get sworn in.
I do. Mark McKenna, M-C-K-E-N-N-A.
So Ms. McKenna, how have you lived in town for a while?
My grandparents bought the lot next door in 1953. So we've been there for summer residence since 1969, and my sister and I have owned the property next door for 25 years. And my sister and I first owned this NH 145 since 2001. So this is going to be a retirement home that'll be there full-time.
Full-time, have any intention to renting the property out, or you intend to live there?
I tend to live there.
Okay. And did you see the note in the staff report about possibly a room being converted to a bedroom?
Yeah, that came up on the planning board, that there is a area upstairs that could they were concerned would be converted to a bedroom. We are in full agreement that that will not be converted to a bedroom. The septic system DEM approval was for 4 bedrooms, and there's 2 bedrooms downstairs and 2 bedrooms upstairs, so.
Jack, could you, just so we can get oriented, could you go back, or can you go back to the photograph? It's a aerial view, because where is the road?
Yeah, so.
You-
You have a pointer by any chance?
Yeah, So that's actually a paved road?
You can't see the road, a winter picture on Google is a little bit better, because this is actually tree here, but the road stops, I'm gonna say, right about there.
Excuse me. Try that.
There's actually this gentleman offered to mark the road on the tax assessor map. So you can see in the slashes, but I can't point it out on the, so the road stops, the pavement portion of the road stops right about here. So he would continue to pave it right down here, and then and then we'd pick up the driveway right around here. So we'd pave here, so basically from here down would remain untouched. And the pavement would go about half, right about here, and then turn in, and then his driveway would be a gravel driveway, not a paved driveway. So, yes, it's tough to see that road because it's treed in that picture. The winter scape, you can.
On the site plan, it is marked on the, that end of that road is marked on the site plan.
Yeah. Can you blow that up a little bit?
Right up in the upper right-hand
Yeah,
corner.
right there. Right
Oh,
there.
I got you, okay.
So that's paved right to here. So he's gonna continue to pave it right here, town standards, right here, and then it'll convert to a gravel driveway.
And so the plan is to extend that road, the 115-foot variance is to extend that
Yeah, so
road?
this is, so we're requesting that we pave here and not pave here. So the relief is we won't be paving 115 feet, I believe, is the length of the unpaved road. So that's the relief we're looking for. Is that the number, Jason? Yeah, 115 feet. So we will not be paving this, because this goes, just dead ends right there. It's not gonna service another lot. The other lots below in the other area have other access that they front down already. So it really serves no purpose. It dead ends right there.
How many feet would they be paving?
I think they're looking for 20 or 21 feet, I think. I mean, it's wider than that, but they pave usually 20 feet. So whatever the town standards are, we would bring it to town standards using the required material that is called out in the staff report on page, you'll see page 3, the top of page 3 in the staff report. Hot mix asphalt, road materials, that sort of thing. So it's to whatever the town standards is. But obviously, you don't pave the full width of the driveway. There's always usually, even though the road might be 40 feet or 30 feet, they pave 20 feet. Or 21, it's 20 or 21.
If I may clarify, so in conversation with the Director of Public Works, this Emery Street is not the width of a normal town road. A town road is normally 24 feet, but Emery Street is only constructed to be 20 feet. So the Director of Public Works did confirm that if the applicant stayed consistent with that width, that it would be considered a road to town standards.
And he said he would agree to plow that portion of the road right up to the driveway. And then obviously, since it deadens there, he could just push the snow right into the dead space there, the paper street, the remaining paper street.
Any other questions for Mr. McGreen or the applicant?
That completes our presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry, and the public safety issue, there's no public safety issues. They can get a
Right.
ladder truck or something in there if there's any.
There should be a report with the fire department saying there wouldn't be a need for a turnaround.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. McGreen. Is there anyone else who wants to speak in support of this application? Hearing none, is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to this application?
Yes, I do. My name, Charles Tibaldi, Tibaldi. I'm the owner of the adjacent property, the condominiums, and my unit is the closest unit to this, its property that it abuts. And I also represent, I'm the president of the Sea Pines Condominium Association, which abuts this property totally. The length of his property is the length of our property. And then further, we go all the way to Boston Neck Road. We're at almost 500 feet from Boston Neck Road to the back to where the railroad track used to be. And that's been there for years and years. My concern is, when I came Monday and talked to Mr. DePaney, and I tried to get a copy of that, but I couldn't get one. Anyway, my question is several things first. I was told Monday that the street was going to continue for 85 feet. So that would leave 75 feet. Well, that's what I was told. So this shot says it's only going to go, I don't know, 40, 50 feet? What is it, Mr. DePaney?
45 feet.
How much?
45 feet?
From where the asphalt ends?
Yes.
Okay. Our concern in the association is that Mr. McKenna would use the rest of the street for parking because it's a four-bedroom house. I don't know. I didn't hear you. You say you're going to rent it or not rent it?
I'm not renting it.
No, did you put that on the record? He's not going to rent it? Okay. I didn't hear what he had said. So our concern is that he doesn't take any more of the street. Why I have the concern is that he's been cleaning this property out for several years. And he took half of the street already in front of his property on this side. So maybe 10, 15 feet, he's already cleared it, which is the road. So my concern is that if he goes down to with that 50 feet that you say, he may start cleaning this out too, and then use it, and it's a public road. Also, if you looked at the form that I gave you, this form that I gave to this gentleman, when I slanted the lines to show all the paper streets, there's three paper streets there involved. Besides Emery Street, there's Miller Avenue and, Marion Street, all right. And I know he also has I don't know if it shows on this, he's got a piece of land, a triangle on the corner of Miller Avenue and Moran Street. And he's fenced most of that off, I believe, and put vegetation there. Am I correct?
We fenced, wait, hold on a minute. You can't be asking other people questions. You have to just direct everything to us.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to bring up,
We'll ask those.
he's here. I mean, So, and he's been using all that property around there for his own use, the paper streets. He's got a picnic table there, he's got a table and chairs there. So our concern is how are we going to stop him from using the rest of that street that he's already used half of it already for his frontage on his house? And if he doesn't agree to what you suppose he's supposed to do, then we're going to object to anything, to the frontage, period. Yeah. And the other question I have, he's got 159 feet on the paper street. But that doesn't count for frontage? From the end of Emery Street, which is where we abut it, to where he wants to do his driveway, That's 100, all the way to the Emery Street, that's 159 feet. He's got 3 lots, 53, 50. If you look at this, he's got 3 lots, 53, 53, 50. That's 159 feet. So I don't know what he needs a variance for, number one. You have to explain that to me or somebody. Or maybe Mr. DePany can explain it, please. And
I can take care of that. So basically, in our dimensional ordinance.
you are?
I'm Jay Humes, I'm the building official. The building official
All right, go ahead.
and the zoning official. So in our ordinance, our dimensional regulations, technically, there is no requirement for frontage. There is requirement for lot width, but not frontage,
Which means?
which means that the lot width complies with what it needs to be. So the road doesn't need to go all the way down the entire front of the lot.
Yeah, but my question is that he owns all that property. It's on the paper street. Isn't that frontage?
It does have frontage. It has
Well,
the width of the driveway.
What's the variance for?
What's that?
What's the variance?
The variance is to basically build that, to extend that section of road and to make it to town standards. So
Okay, just
what
that,
we
that
require.
50 feet that he's going to extend it and put
Correct.
whatever the town standard is, whether it's
Correct.
gravel or whatever it is.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
All right. So our concern is that he doesn't use more than he's already used already of the road that he's cleared for his property. All around the 3 roads there.
Well, if there's a decision by this board to grant the variance, it's going to set forth specifically what he's put forward in his application, which is the number of feet, which I believe it says 45 feet in the,
Yeah.
so that's what he'll be constrained
Okay.
to developing.
And if he takes more of the street, which he already has, what is our reprieve?
Well,
The
that's
abutters.
something you might want to talk to an attorney about.
But what about
I mean,
the
we're
town?
not-
It's the town street. We pay taxes for the town street. So is it our property as taxpayers?
I mean, we're not really, we can't really answer those
Well, there's
questions.
an attorney, eh?
I can't, but now you're attorney. So I can't give you legal advice, nor can the chair. But if that's a situation that happens, you certainly can consult with counsel. And maybe, frankly, maybe the town has a problem with that, similar to your hypothetical. You're saying if a hypothetical scenario happens, you would have a problem with it. Maybe the town also would have a problem with that and would take their own enforcement action. But we're speaking of
I
something that...
just want to get on the record,
I get
so
it.
what if it comes up again?
I get it.
We objected to it because, but he's already taken some of the street. What about putting that back to what he already took?
Right. Well, the only relief this board can grant tonight is what's being applied for. If he takes more, then that's something that can be taken up then.
I got it on the record, that's all I need.
I think she got everything.
All right. And he said he's not going to rent the property, correct? All right. Have any questions of me?
Any questions of this witness? No, sir, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Are there any other objectors before Mr. McGreen gives his rebuttal to that? Okay.
Just to give the objector some comfort, as I'm sure you know, Mr. Chairman, you cannot adversely possess town property. So even if he is cutting the grass, there's no way he can adversely possess that against the town. So if the town wanted to go in there and say, listen, stop cutting the grass, which the town wouldn't do, but if they were to do it, and you can't take that property or you stop using it as your own, he wouldn't be able to do it. So, and there would be no concern that the town would lose that property because adverse possession is prohibited against the town.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, but our concern is to leave it in a natural state, which has been for 200 years. Not that he takes it and cuts the grass to increase his total footage on the street. That's our concern, just leave it natural. So he should just let it, my opinion, let it grow back to like it was and leave it that way,
Understood.
okay?
Are there any other witnesses who want to testify in this matter? Hearing none, is there a motion to close this hearing?
I'll move to close.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The hearing is closed. Do I need a motion to write a decision on this case? We're going to hold it over until next month so that Leslie can write a decision on this one.
I would defer to Mr. Salitro, just to make sure that we, you know, if
Do
if
we
a
need to
motion's
keep
needed.
that's another thing. Do we need to keep it open?
We did this time for the first matter we took tonight. It worked out great. Let's just follow that same path.
All right, so is there a motion to reopen this hearing so that we can have a decision written?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, so we're going to keep the hearing open, and at next month's hearing, we'll have a decision.
And we'll just continue to a date certain.
Yeah, can we, do we have a date, Heidi? September 17th, Jack?
9/17.
What was that date, please?
September 17th.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I gotta check something to see if I'm here that day. One vacation I'm gonna take. Hold on. No, I'll figure it out later, I don't know. All right, the last matter for the board tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, is there a motion to continue this to September 17th?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? Aye. All right, the last matter for hearing tonight is, hopefully I'm pronouncing this properly, Trazi O'Connor, Plat N-K, Lot 1-8458, Indian Trail.
Hello.
Good evening.
So we're representing ourselves.
Okay, so why don't you just identify yourself so the stenographer can swear you in?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony in the matter now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God?
I do.
Okay, can you state your name?
Karen O'Connor, Karen, O'Connor, O'Connor.
Michael Trazi, Trazi.
All right, just a word of caution, when you go forward, speak one at a time, because the stenographer can't take down both of you speaking at the same time. Okay?
Sure.
So go ahead, whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
I'm not exactly sure where we are at this point. We're trying to put our property back to a 5-bedroom property. When we purchased it, it was originally a 5-bedroom. We went under contract as a 5-bedroom. And when the fire chief came in for the smoke inspection, he decided that the windows in the 2 lower bedrooms were not the right size. So they switched it, the town had it switched to a 3-bedroom. So we are looking to increase the window size and put it back to a 5-bedroom property to accommodate our family.
The house was built in 1970, and it's been a 5-bedroom, since, but the town laws have changed over the years, and so, it needs egress windows in the basement, and it needs more parking space.
Which I think we have given to Amanda everything that was requested to show that is there.
Yes, go ahead.
So we have 300 square feet per car. We have the 10 feet that we need. I think we've covered all the requirements, correct?
So if I could
Yeah.
ask you some questions and maybe even ask staff some questions. You said that it was, when you bought it, it was a 5-bedroom.
That's right.
It was advertised as a 5-bedroom.
It was advertised, and it was, the town records had it as a 5-bedroom.
Okay, so I do want to then ask staff if the town records did have this as a 5-bedroom.
Ms. Corno, I believe, yes, originally it was in our tax records as a 3-bedroom house, and at some point it had changed to a 5-bedroom house. I'm not entirely sure of the dates off the top of my head. But I will put a point of clarification that those records in the tax database are not 100% accurate, and rooms are changed and added and subtracted on those records, frequently.
So we're a combined family, we're kind of like a Brady Bunch. Between the two of us, we have 5 children. So they are all of college age, and this is what the property is for at the moment, and then probably for all of us at some point, depending on what happens here. But that was the plan when we purchased the property, was that it's for our 5 children and ourselves at some point. And now it went to a 3-bedroom, so we were told we just needed to come here and address it with you all and have it put back to a 5. So here we are.
So I will note that the planning board, when they recommended this for approval, they did say that it would be conditioned upon receiving evidence that the property was a 5-bedroom. So I'm taking what staff, I think we should take what staff says as evidence that it was a 5-bedroom, although what you're telling me is tax records don't govern that?
Ms. Cornell, based off of the bedrooms that are on the tax card, I mean, that is part of the town's record. However, it's the tax assessors don't enter the homes, so whether or not the bedroom count is 100% accurate, that's something to consider as well.
And the 2 lower bedrooms do not qualify when you did enter, they do not qualify as bedrooms, is that right? And that's why that's why they're here?
Yes, that's correct. They were not considered compliant, and if you have further questions, I would defer to the building official.
Okay. Okay, so there are, and maybe you want to caution too, but there are standards that you have to, there's evidence that you have to put on that gives us the development standards that, to be able to grant the special use permit.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's something that you're prepared to do right now without having consulted an attorney.
Well, what are the standards other than the
So,
parking and
The one, well, from my perspective, and I just read this a little bit, but I know the town has been working on it, but I do have questions about the parking.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask. So
Sure.
my big question is a couple big questions. What does demonstrate forward vehicular egress mean?
It means exactly what's being portrayed on the screen behind me. The applicant has asked a land surveyor to depict the size of vehicles in the driveway and depicts that the cars can access or can back out and do a 3-point turn and move forward and leave the development in a forward manner. The reasoning behind that is to prevent car accidents, or in theory, reduce risk of car accidents. In that way that there's a clearer view of leaving the property. And that's my understanding of what that condition would mean.
Okay, so it's backing out, turning, and then going forward.
Doesn't necessarily have to be backing out. It could be in the form of a circular driveway, but just the means of exiting or egressing the property in a forward,
Has to be
looking out manner.
Okay. And you've determined that is,
The building official has determined
the
it.
project summary says that was met.
Yep.
And because it would be over 4 bedrooms, you need 3,000 square feet per space.
300 square feet.
300 square feet for each space.
I was going to say, we don't.
So, and in this case, you have to count the garage as space.
Correct. The garage does count whether it's an exact 300 or not. As long as it can accommodate 1 car, it would be considered.
So is that the way you read the ordinance? Because I don't read the ordinance that way.
That is historically been how it's been reviewed, and that's how the building official has, previous building officials as well as the current building official.
The way I read the ordinance, it says garage space actually used for automobile parking may be counted to meet this regulation. So I'm saying garage space actually used for parking may be counted.
Yep.
So you still have to count the space.
Yep.
Okay, so in some of the materials that were presented, and I did look online for a picture, we don't have front views of the house, I don't think. Oh, there you go, okay. So,
Yeah, back up one, it's better picture, I think, yep.
yeah, okay. So my question there is how is the 356 calculated in that? Is that door, the area behind that door included in the 356?
In terms of 356, are you referencing?
The square feet of the garage. That's the total square foot of the garage per the plans that I've seen.
I believe that would be counted from the back wall to the front of the door, but the building official may be able to
But what
clarify.
about from the right side of the door to the left of the garage? Is that?
You mean the width of the door?
Yeah. So if you look at some of these plans that were submitted, there's something called a furnace room and an entry, and that is in the garage. If you see that right there, there's a furnace room. So the garage looks like it's 14 feet wide, but I think the furnace room and the entry takes away from some of that square footage there. So if that's the case, I'm not sure we meet the 300.
I see the confusion, I do. And the furnace room is not in the garage space. It is underneath the living room upstairs. So you can see how the living room there is bigger than the living room, or the family room that's downstairs. That's because downstairs has the furnace room.
It's not drawn that way.
Well, I think what you're saying is that the furnace is not in the garage.
It is not.
No, it's in the basement.
That whole furnace area right there that you see is not part of the garage at all.
So
It's after the garage. It's,
when you look at the garage, where does that door go into? Into the garage?
Yes.
yes.
And then there's steps from the back?
If you see, yeah, so the door is at the very bottom right-hand corner of the garage you see there. And then there are steps on that back opening to go into to enter the house, the actual house, through the garage.
So can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
So I think I understand what you're saying. Was a wall built there? So was it part of the garage at one point, and then they built a wall to separate the furnace?
No, it's
From-
not even on the same level.
Okay.
The furnace is in the basement, part of the basement.
So where it says garage there, that's just the reference that the garage is above on the ground floor, but the furnace is in the basement.
Yes, that
Right.
whole area is
Yep.
the lower, like it's like a raised branch. It's
Sure.
the whole lower level.
Okay.
The garage kind of sits in between the two levels. I think maybe
Yeah.
that's where the confusion is. Almost, you have to go down, from the garage, you'd have to go down to get into.
Like 5 steps.
Yeah, and then there isn't access from the garage to the higher level.
I guess my problem here is that we don't actually have a plan that is properly drawn.
So,
You know, by somebody who has actually gone and measured.
okay, so, I mean, even if we didn't use the garage, I believe we still have the square footage, but at some point,
No, I don't think we
somebody
do.
told me when I handed in the applications, everyone said that this was sufficient and it showed the,
Yeah, we were told at the, what was the planning board?
yeah, that this
That-
drawing was fine for our purposes, for what we were
They
doing.
accept these kind of drawings. If you go back
Okay.
to the original one, that was yellow, it shows right there, the dimensions 14 by 24.
So, but you are saying, you did say that the back of the garage here does have a door to the to the house?
Yes,
And there's steps there. It's showing some steps. Some of your pictures are showing steps. And into the garage.
No, into that front.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, I see the confusion. The furnace area is not, the furnace area is part of that living room that's shown right there.
It's underneath it. That's the
Oh, yeah,
top
that's the
level.
top,
That's the top level. You cannot get from the garage to the top level. There's no entrance there. You have to go through the front door to get to the top level. From the lower level, from the garage, which is 14 by 24, you can take stairs down into that furnace area, which is the back little room is like a mud room, and then and once you step down out of the garage, you are now underneath the top level. So that whole area is the actual structure. The garage is just a little,
But you have the
almost
dimensions
like
of the
an
garage,
addition.
right? I mean,
Yeah, it's 14 by 24.
Do we have any other pictures?
It's a one-car garage.
No, Mr. Chairman, what we've received is what is being presented.
May I answer?
Yeah, please. Because I'm sure there's an answer here.
So typically, the way that we've looked at this in the past is even if a garage isn't, say, 200 square feet in actual dimension, it is big enough to park a single car, or a two-car garage is big enough to park two cars. So essentially, we take, the square footage of what that would be, subtract it from the overall, and then look at the rest of the parking area that's available to see if that meets the requirement. I do also want to throw into this, again, I didn't officially do this at the beginning, but basically, I think the way that this all came up is that in November of 2025, my office received a complaint of 6 renters being in there. We went to investigate the complaint, and we issued an NOV for 3 legal bedrooms with 6 renters and no lease provided, which is required. It looks like after that, that they amended their rental registration to have it as 3 bedrooms. It was also on Airbnb for rent in the fall, and it was advertised as 6 bedrooms. Afterwards, I believe that the applicants came and tried to retroactively make those bedrooms legal. From what I can gather out of my notes, without digging any deeper, it looks like the basement was finished, and I believe it was possibly finished without permits, or if it was finished with permits, that it wasn't designed for bedrooms downstairs. So that was the reasoning behind us going in and saying it's a 3-bedroom. Regardless of what the tax card may have said, we didn't have any building permits to back up this conversion, so it was illegally done. Now, whether our applicants did it or previous owners is irrelevant. Basically, we needed to make it legal. And I believe that they ended up going with the 5 bedrooms because that's all they actually had room for. Because I think one of the other additional rooms that was downstairs that was being used as a bedroom didn't have any means of egress, which is required directly off of a bedroom in a situation where it's in a basement. So that's kind of the historical, how we got to where we are.
Ryan, was this matter, now that I'm thinking about it as I'm sitting here, was this matter before us on a notice of violation for this house?
No, not for this house particularly, but you have had a handful of other applications very similarly outlined.
So I can respond to that, correct?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so we remodeled the basement. We did not change any existing walls or anything that requires a building permit. I mean, we're allowed to do aesthetics to the basement, and that's what we did. Unfortunately, when the town came to the house, there was actually a visitor that was there and told the town that...
Well, no, our children were there. I'm sorry.
She can't take that down.
My apologies.
You finish, sir, first.
So there was nothing that required any building permits, because we didn't do anything other than aesthetics to the basement.
Elbow grease, paint.
A lot of elbow grease. There was...
Flooring. That's really it.
Still was without permits, right?
Right, and
You're allowed to do aesthetics to a house. You don't need a permit to do aesthetics. We didn't change any walls.
there was no building permit prior, whether you bought it that way or not.
Oh, understood.
And
Yeah, we can't speak to that.
And our building, or
Oh, you
building
mean-
property owner who went there said
Right.
that basically when they interviewed the person that they met, that they confirmed that there were 6 renters there.
And it wasn't a guest.
I brought my lease to you. There's 3 people, there were 3 people on that lease. The 3 other girls that were there are my daughters, and I asked them to leave. So, which didn't really sit well with me, but it's their friends that rented the property, so their friends got to stay. My daughters came home.
So taking a step back, our plan is to live in that house. When we signed the contract on that house, it was a 5-bedroom. And then when the smoke inspector came in, they said that the downstairs bedrooms were not fit to be, legal bedrooms. So that brought it down to a 3-bedroom. So we've been in limbo for the past 2 years. We want to live there with our kids, but we've been in limbo. And we had 3 of our kids live there with some of their friends to try to offset the cost. And, yeah, here we are. We're trying to, we did not make any structural changes to the basement, anything that requires a permit. It was all just aesthetics. There was a bathroom down there. The bathroom stayed. The house was built in 1970s, so I'm not sure what permits were from the previous owner, but that's what we came into. The smoke inspector made us, well, the fire marshal or whatever, made us put in wired smoke detectors in the basement to make it, meet code. And now we're trying to come to you to try to get permission for the egress windows and that 3 feet by 4 foot, whatever section, to add gravel to the driveway to meet regulations to have the cars.
What year did you buy this house?
2 years ago.
And did the seller represent to you that it was 5 bedrooms?
Yes.
And it turns out it's only 3.
It was actually with Narragansett. It was listed as in your town accessor's office.
Pending against the seller?
No, because it was discovered before we closed, and so we kind of we were doing a 1031 exchange, so it was too late to back out. I had to move forward. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able, I would have just had to sell my other property and take a capital gains hit, which is not what I was trying to do.
So, you indicated that you're going to live there. Your application actually says proposed use of the premises. It says room rental for our children and tenants.
Yes.
For years when we don't have all 5 living
right.
and then it's cut off. So.
That's right, because currently that's what we are doing with it, but until we figure out. But eventually, the property is appealed to us because Mike and I can be on one floor once we're at that point, and the kids can have the other floor. And so this is what appealed to us about this property. And, unfortunately, we were kind of stuck in a hard place when we want to make it right. We're not trying to, we're trying to do the right thing. We want the bedrooms right. We want the windows right. We want everything right. So here we are, but.
So, and the plan to get the amount of square footage for parking that you need for 5 bedrooms is you are going to be paving a small
Gravel.
section, right? So,
I
do
think
you
we
know
need
how close that is to the lot line?
It was within the setbacks that we are supposed to, yeah, I think it's, yeah.
4.5 feet.
Yeah. It's a little sliver of gravel.
Okay.
And if you look at a lot of the other properties, they have the same thing. I don't know if they went to the town or not, and there's 14 houses within a mile radius that has 5 bedrooms.
I mean, we could even go on the other side if it was a.
So, Nick, this is the question I have. They are not going to be able to adduce any evidence necessary to establish a special use permit under the ordinance, so far.
The burden's on the applicant.
Exactly. So we've had this situation before where people have come before us without legal counsel, and we cannot give you legal advice, but if this petition gets denied, I don't think you can come back before this board for what, is it ever, or is it a year?
1
1 year.
All right.
So,
It's a hardship to us. We've been in a hardship for the past
Yeah, we've been in limbo, not knowing what to do
I
with
know,
this.
but we're constrained by what the ordinance says, and so if we don't get any evidence from you specifically, there's a whole criteria of what's necessary for you to prove that you're entitled to a special use permit.
Okay.
So all I'm saying to you right now is based on what, at least what I've heard as the chairman, I'm sure my fellow board members share this, is that if we don't get that evidence, we're going to be constrained to deny
Okay,
the variance.
what evidence specifically? 'Cause
Well,
I
this is
was-
what we can't advise you on. There's
Okay,
specific.
so the evidence I was told I needed
Well,
was,
Let me just finish. There's
Okay.
specific criterion that you need to meet in order to get a special use permit. And some of these things require certain facts that are put into evidence before this board. And if we don't get them, we can't, we are going to be constrained to grant your petition. And what I'm warning you about is if you go forward and we deny it, you're not going to be able to come back here for a year. Whereas you could, I don't know, I guess they could withdraw their petition and go get a lawyer and come back here with the right,
Or they could request a continuance.
or request a continuance and get a lawyer and come back, because the way it's going, we're going to have to deny the petition.
yeah, it sounds like the evidence I've given that I was told was acceptable isn't.
So I guess we'd like a continuance.
Yeah, if you go to the town, I'm sure they will give you a copy of the special use permit provisions of the ordinance. And there are specific enumerated factors. You were sitting here in the audience throughout some of those other hearings, and
Yes.
there were lawyers here, and they were putting into evidence.
So because we don't have a lawyer,
Right, you don't need that. I'm not saying you need a lawyer, but you need to.
Want me to jump in? So it's not a requirement to have a lawyer. You absolutely don't. One is not required at all. There's a lot of people who come before this board without a lawyer and succeed and get their application granted. But what the chair is doing, and I actually view it as a courtesy to you, is he's kind of telling you, he's testing the water, saying, I don't have what I need to rule in your favor tonight.
Right.
So as opposed to just letting you present your case, rest on that and have it closed, and him say, I haven't heard enough, I can't give you what you want. He's giving you the courtesy in saying that you might seek legal counsel to advise you and maybe help you through the process so that you are checking all the appropriate boxes to potentially put the board in a situation where they can find in your favor.
okay.
So if you'd like, we can continue this to September, well, do we have room on the schedule for that day, or? Can we take it?
I believe Ms. Patron's going to continue to outline the schedule, but I believe there's also a number of appeals potentially scheduled. Whether they'll be continued or not, we don't know. So,
So if we don't have those appeals in September, could we add a 6th, or is that pushing it for everybody that's here?
you can always put it on the agenda if the board wishes to, and if it gets too late, you can always continue it to another date certain. And I will make a quick side note that all of the special use permit standards that you did reference earlier are all incorporated in the staff report that has been distributed to the board and to the applicant.
All right, so if you get, so first of all, let's deal with do you want to continue it until September 17th?
It sounds like I do.
Okay, so is there a motion to continue this matter until September 17th?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
September 17th.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right. So the staff report is public record. I would get a copy of that.
Yep.
It sets forth all of the criteria for a special use permit. And you seem very intelligent, both of you. You might be able to read it and come before us, and you'll figure out, based on that, what evidence you need to put before the board.
Well, what just surprised me today was that my understanding was it was on the tax record as a 5-bedroom, and I guess we'll have to figure out where to get that.
Oh, I've given them proof. You said you had put it in their packets.
Right, but he said it was a 3-bedroom.
all of those things are just pieces of evidence. They're not
Right.
definitive of anything. It's a
They're
nice
still-
piece of evidence if you can have it, that there was 5, but it's,
And there's people here to, I assume, to speak out against it, the neighbors.
and they're all,
We
being-
plan to eventually have them as our neighbors, so do they get to speak now?
no, we're going to continue it until the 17th, and they'll all have the opportunity to come here and voice their
They're my next
objections.
door neighbor. Really? Okay.
And then maybe in the meantime, maybe you might want to reach out to all of them and maybe
Yeah,
have
it'd be,
a
I mean,
powwow on all.
I
maybe.
live by the motto, if you have a problem with somebody, you come to them first. So,
All right, anything else? All right, thank you very much. So we'll see you on the 17th.
Thank you, I appreciate it, thank
Got
you.
it. Is there, wait a minute, do we need to,
We just did it.
yeah, we did do that. We did do a motion to continue it, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we did. All right. Do we need to, Nick, do we need to close this meeting to talk about that case that you want to talk about?
No, oh, no, you mean like an executive session?
Yeah, no,
No, not at all. It was placed on the agenda because, yeah, it's on the agenda just to update you folks. Oh, sure.
Bye.
I'm glad everybody else is looking.
Well, wait a minute,
I'm not, sorry.
then should we close the meeting before she goes? I mean, in other words, all I'm asking is for you to discuss that. Do we have to have an open meeting?
No, because we're still within an open meeting, so pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, we still need to be within our meeting. It doesn't need to be a public hearing. We don't need a stenographer for what we're going to talk about.
All right, but, I mean, should I close the meeting?
No,
so that's
no,
part of
no,
the
no.
record? No?
No, I think we're all set. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do it in September. All right, Nick, the floor is yours. We
Sure, so,
Find out whether we prevailed or we whatever.
You prevailed, and coincidentally, I suppose you, Mr. Chair, probably know more about it than I do, because it wasn't handled by myself, my office, or somehow it made its way to, I believe it was Mark DeSisto's office, which is a great law firm. They do a fabulous job and prevailed for the board. I believe it's Judge Rekka Sloan who did the decision. She's a newer judge, does a good job. But with the retirement of Judge Lanphier, we don't have a predestined land use judge. So as we stand right now, until possibly that position is filled with the appointment of a new judge, these decisions are being farmed out. By way of example, there's a couple matters that have gone before this board that are pending in the court system that are being assigned to various judges, one of which is Judge Rekka Sloan. With another case we have, another one is with Judge Smith. Contrast that with over the past few years, ever since the establishment of a land use court, where Judge Lanphier was handling everything. I don't know what they're going to do going forward. When Judge Lanphier's position is filled, I know there's a list. I don't know if it's in front of the governor yet, but it will be soon. Whether that appointed judge becomes the land use judge, or we're still doing this piecemeal farming out to various judges, I don't know what the presiding justice of the Superior Court's going to do, but for the time being, it's going to be farmed out to various judges, and everybody's going to kind of carry their own weight. So I know, Keith, you were here for this matter. I don't know if any of the other board members were, but it was just you.
I know I was here for it.
Okay. It's, again, because I didn't handle it, I don't have any inside knowledge. I can just speak to what the opinion says. I'm sure you all read the opinion or will read the opinion. One thing that came out tonight when we were talking about some of the decisions is ultimately the decision is upheld, but the court did make a few comments about what we like to see in a decision. And that's why I took the opportunity to say, and I try to point out when I can, we're all learning, and I did it myself some time ago. And David, you always grab the bull by the horns, and John, you grabbed the bull by the horns doing the draft decision. And in the draft in particular, the point I wanted to make was it was well put. You had your legal standard, and then under that you had your facts that support the legal standard. And then David, when you were in the less advantageous position of doing it on the fly, that's exactly what I want to see. So when I was the chair of the zoning board in Richmond, when I was on the zoning board there you go. That's how I always visualized it, that we have our standards, and within the standard, you mesh the facts that you find to support that. So mentally, that's what worked for me, and I'd suggest the same for you folks. I'm just going to look at some of my notes that I have with respect to this.
Ask the question, is
Sure, of course you can.
Is there anything preventing, you know, as the chair to assign thing, yeah. Because I actually emailed him today and I said, can I do Tampa?
Sure.
Because that's the one I'm looking at, and that's the one I, you know,
No, if you take, whether it's,
I think it would make everybody here feel better and
Well,
more confident.
yeah, whether you take a straw poll at a meeting that, all right, this one's gonna be your decision, and the next one's gonna be that, just don't run afoul of open meetings with your emails. We don't wanna do that. Don't have an email amongst a quorum. But if you have a straw poll with, so you,
That's why we all just can email Keith and.
yeah, or you volunteer, hey, I saw we have five
Yeah, you-
items on the agenda. I'm interested in number 2. I'd like to write a decision on that. And when you know it's yours, you're on your toes. You're ready to, you take it a little more seriously, or maybe you're a little more attentive
Yeah.
because you know you have to write everything down. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's good practice that we're not doing it on the fly.
So procedurally, can I, without violating the open meetings law, just email Karen and say, can you do number 4?
Absolutely, it's just 2. 2 is not a
Or
quorum.
what, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's not, if you're emailing, if you're basically assigning the homework, or what will be the homework, it's not an open meetings violation if you're addressing less than a quorum. You always want to be careful, you don't want a rolling quorum, but we're not, we're not talking substantively about a matter. It's, hey, you're going to get number 1, you're going to get number 2. These are separate communications. I'm not overly
Yeah,
concerned.
that would be helpful, I think, to everybody here, because I remember when I wasn't the chairman and had to do decisions, you know, I'd walk in and Jim would go, all right, you have 3, 2, and 4. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, even that's better than maybe what I was used to, which is on the fly. You look around, nobody's volunteering, so all right, I guess I'll do it. And similar kind maybe what you did tonight, David.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
But I think it's good, I think it's good
Because
practice.
you can really focus your energy on one good one, read the other ones and be prepared, but you're well prepared for the one that you're on the hook
Yeah.
for.
As long as we know from Heidi who's going to be here to establish the quorum, we generally know that in advance, I think.
Yeah, it's new practice as well on the agenda. The last item every month is typically a quorum verification, so at that point, you know, you should know who's here, barring any unforeseen circumstances.
Is that helpful to everybody if we do that?
Very helpful.
So, I mean, just back to the case, ultimately, what's interesting in Judge Reckitt Sloan's decision is she could have ended her decision very early. She found, ultimately, the board denied the relief that was being sought. And she could have stopped at the first criteria that was denied, which was hardship was due to the unique characteristics of the property. She found the board was made sufficient.
I have to interrupt you. I have no idea what this case is. I don't know if everyone else has read it.
I think we got it in the email.
Did I get an email?
Yeah, if you,
I don't think I've seen it. What is it?
Go ahead, Nick, you might as well explain it.
Keep it 20 seconds.
yeah, Ryan, you probably know more of the background.
Sure,
but-
I know that I was here just for the very back end of it. It was a house that had a party wall in between. It was a house in a residential zone in the south end of town. There was a party wall that was constructed in between the structure, and it was being used as a 2-family structure in a residential zone, which is a prohibited use. And that had come forward to the board seeking relief based off of a couple different, I think 1 or 2 different variances. And the owner, Eastside LLC, was ultimately denied by the zoning board, and subsequently, there was an appeal. And then the appeal is what Mr. Solitro is addressing.
Judge upheld the board in its denial of the relief that was sought. There's a lot of discussion on the variant, the standards we apply for a variance. And what I was getting at a moment ago is the judge could have ended her analysis with saying, yes, as to the first criteria, the board was appropriate in denying this variance because they didn't meet this standard. But she went on and looked at the board's full analysis of all the rest of the criteria, some of which she said the board was incorrect on, which we can take that and learn from. But because we had one reason that was sufficient to deny this, that's all you need. But I'd encourage the board, if you haven't read it, read through it. If you have any questions, you can always grab me at any point, but it's, I thought you had a question. But that was my read of it. So it's not a quick read, it's a little lengthy, might be pushing 30 pages, but it's a good read. It's half hour of your time. I'd suggest you take a look at it.
And we will distribute the final briefing to the board if you haven't already seen it and/or received it. We will distribute the final briefing if you have not already received it. If you didn't, my apologies.
Yeah, it was one of the few decisions I've ever read, like, where it really, it kind of set forth what they expect of zoning boards. Now they want to see, recitation of the facts, then an application of, as Nick said, of the standard, and then how you arrived at your decision.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll occasionally talk about this, but you forget, and you forget that new members come along, where maybe we don't have that discussion, where it's always a good reminder of, we have our standard, we're gonna hear evidence, hear testimony, view physical evidence that we need to incorporate to meet those specific legal standards. Our findings of fact have to support that legal standard. I don't think it came up, I didn't see it in that decision, but I know that's always on, you're right, I remember maybe 6 months ago, there was a case where that was an issue. I don't think it came up in this one. But it's testimony, you're a board, you can find somebody not credible and discredit their testimony. I would put it on the record, I would put all your factual findings on the record. Because what a judge is doing, they're literally reviewing the transcript, reviewing all the evidence. It's an appellate court, they're reviewing what happened here. So if you don't say it, a judge can't find it.
So, follow-up question, let's say we make findings of fact under each criteria. Should we, under each criteria, make a credibility determination before we make a decision? Or just a general?
I don't think you always have to say, I found this witness to be credible. We've had some cases here in not so distant past where we had, and I see Attorney Ardente in the audience, and it related to a case that he had, where there was dueling opinion. His client said one thing, other people said another, where the board basically had to decide, who do we believe here? So there it may be useful saying, we heard two versions of the same opinion. We believe opinion A over opinion B for the following reasons. So I don't think on your average application you have to say, we found this person to be credible. That may be implied because you're making findings based on the evidence they're putting before you. But certainly if you're discrediting someone's opinion or not finding them credible for bias or other reasons, I would put that on the record. But to the rest of it, I'd say take a look. Any questions, let me know. You can email me, call me anytime.
That's it?
There's no more lawsuits against us?
Now can we have a motion to adjourn?
No, and there's still more things on
Yeah,
the
you got
agenda.
a couple more items.
Oh.
Yep, there's a couple things on the agenda that were not addressed.
Continue the minutes.
Is there a motion to continue? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Correct.
Yep. All right, now is there a motion?
Nope,
to adjourn?
no.
No, right here.
It's on the
Rules
back of the agenda.
procedure, comprehensive
Yep,
plan
so
update.
item D2, we can continue that to, we don't need a motion. We'll put it on the agenda for next month. D3, I wasn't here last meeting. I believe that there's some recollection from Ms. Awas that Christine Brochu was appointed as the comprehensive plan. Did you guys, it was John? Was it John? And, okay.
Back with John was standing.
Okay, I wasn't here, so I just wanted to make sure. I don't think that there's going to be any updates for John just yet, because there's been no meetings held. So that will just be a continued item on the agenda when appropriate. And then item D4, if you guys want to just verify that you're going to be here, so we know we have a quorum for next month.
That's what I need to check. September 17th?
Yeah, it's a very early meeting this September, comparatively.
Oh, I have to check.
I will be here.
Hold on, I'm checking something.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, that the warrant proclamation was your idea when you first started. And it's been carried across to all my boards now, and it's worked out wonderful.
Yeah, I'll be here on the 17th. I'm going on vacation on the 18th. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Getting close.
I'm gonna have a problem with the October one, because I'm only coming home that day. But, yeah, I have no preparation.
Yes, I will be here.
September, I'm here.
So everyone, John, are you here the 17th? And Karen?
I
All right, so everyone can make it on the 17th, so if... Oh, good.
Now, Mr. Chairman, you can make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this. I'm starving. I always come here right from work. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.